Hello, makers, creators, and art enthusiasts. All right, hey, there's my hands. Things are moving. We are live here for the first time, and I am going to be drawing Whale of a Tale. So to give you a little bit idea of what this is, and sorry, just checking things real quick. So, all right. So with Whale of a Tale, I just like to come up with things that are either plays on words, or if I see something like an animal that you kind of look at clouds and would think, oh, that looks like an animal. Well, I might look at an animal and think, oh, that looks like a hot air balloon, right? So what I did in the past is something like this. So I took a octopus and I said, oh, that looks like the top of a hot air balloon for some weird reason. And I made this little guy, I call him Solo Adventurer. And then I ended up making a little whimsical seahorse where the seahorse, the end of it looked a lot like an umbrella to me. It looked like the end of the umbrella. So I combined those two things together. And Whale of Tale is going to be the third in the series. And that's what we are drawing today, is this guy. So I've looked at a lot of different images online. You can see over here, I was actually doing whaling ship. That's what I was having an idea with there. But when I was looking online, I took a lot of different whale images and I kind of combined to create this thing. And the tail made me think of an open book. And so that's what I wanted to draw today, was the Whale of a Tale. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do on the book yet. The common idea, that thing to do would be probably to do Moby Dick, right? That's probably where everybody's brain would go to, but I'm not sure what I want to do on the book yet, for like what's actually in here. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. And I can see that we have a few people joining right now. Go ahead and let me know where you are coming from, and if you are on Facebook or are on YouTube. And if you can hear me, hopefully that is a thumbs up. So to cover what I am using real quick, I use a combination of 4 different pencils. I have Faber-Castell, and then I use mechanical pencils, and I actually use Faber-Castell lead in the mechanical pencils. And so I'm going to use between 2H is what's in this mechanical pencil, 2B, also right here, 4B and 8B. And I use the different kinds of leads to end up drawing different shades of values. But I'm also going to be using this thing. This is probably not what people commonly see. And this right here is graphite powder. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this guy up. This is graphite powder, and this is a makeup sponge, and that's what I'm using to apply. Hey, Michelle, thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for the congrats on the first live. Hopefully you can hear me. I assume that you can, considering people are still here. So graphite powder is the darkest form of pencil that I could find. This is 8B, and the graphite powder is 9B. So we're using the darkest form of lead right here, graphite pencil, and we ended up, I did a video where I take a drill and I actually make this stuff at home, and I ground up these big, huge charcoal sticks, or graphite sticks. All right, so I like to use this powder a lot of times to apply my dark layers, and that's what we're going to start with. We're going to start applying just some graphite powder just to get something sort of on the paper. Oh, look what I can do. I'm using this thing called StreamYard, and so I can take the comments and highlight them. That's pretty cool. So I'm just going to kind of get this all over, because unlike the other two, you want to see the other two I'm talking about, these guys right here, I didn't do much background with them. And I kind of want this feeling where it's going to show depth. So I think I'm going to cover the page. Also, something I don't normally do is cover the page. For some reason, I usually leave a little white border. This entire page, some of this graphite powder, just to get something, like I said, something down, something we can work with. because I can start erasing this. I can start making it darker. I have options at this point. All right, let's get a little bit more graphite powder on the makeup sponge. And so we get darker as we go down in the water. So I want to do my darkest graphite down here at the bottom. I'll probably do this several times. Hey, Aunt Kathy. I got Mark and Kathy from Georgia. They can see and hear me fine. Well, I hope that you guys are huge fans. You kind of have to be since you're family. Here we go, just applying a little bit more graphite powder before I start drawing. I haven't decided if I'm gonna draw a pencil or eraser at first. So let's start drawing with an eraser. Let's make this a little bit different. So I'm gonna take my kneaded eraser. This is an eraser, if you haven't seen this before. This is an eraser that is just like a giant piece of rubber that you can basically keep doing this, and then the graphite that's inside of it will kind of seem to disappear. So it's like a way of cleaning it, but it's also a way to get some neat texture at the end of this eraser. So going off my drawing here, figuring out about how big I want to make this guy. I think I want him, belly can be somewhere around here. His nose somewhere up there. So this is why I laid down that graphite powder at first, is because I'm starting with drawing with an eraser. So I can get my highlights, get something down very quickly, very easily. It looks like a rocket ship right now. So actually, to make it to where he stands out, I'm gonna erase some of this background. So like I said, it's light up top. And this gives me a cool texture to start with too. So we can see how quickly, with very little work, I'm starting to get something out of nothing. At least I can see it. I can see it in my mind's eye. Take some more of my graphite powder. So I was thinking that was going to be the beam of light from the sky, but I might move that down a little bit so that I fill up the whole piece of paper. Yeah, I'll move that down. And with graphite powder, and it's gone. Because I'm not pressing very hard into the paper when I do this. A little bit for his fin there, a little bit for the fin coming out here. And you can start to see it's already starting to take shape, which is awesome. So I don't start all my drawings like this. With the octopus guy that you might have seen earlier, I'm not going to pick it up because I have graphite all over my hands now. But with that one that you might have seen earlier, I started with just the lightest of pencil. And now what I'm using is a stump. And this is just to help draw out the shapes a little bit more. You got to be aware of where the lighting is coming from as well, not just the color of the animal, the creature itself, but, you know, like, is the light coming from here, even though, like, because his belly's white, or I could make the lighting come from here, but then, or I could just make it come straight down. think it's more dynamic if it comes at an angle. So I'm kind of feeling this direction. So the sun will be coming from here, which means that his darkest of spots, like in this area here, start to go back there. My wife is asking what kind of jars I use to hold the loose graphite. Your old makeup jars, or whatever this is. Scrub? I don't know. Let's use some pencil. So I'm taking 4B. This is around sort of middle of the road. It's not too light, not too dark. I'm just going off my sketch for now. When I start to apply a lot more details, what I'm going to do is look at a lot more reference images. It'll probably be for next time. I don't know how long I'm going to do this stream for. But we are not moving slowly, that's for sure. So. And if you are live with us, let us know that you are live by just putting hashtag live in the comments. Or let us know if you do different kinds of art. Let us know what you do, or if you do pencil art just like this. The reason why I'm using things like the big makeup sponge and the big kneaded eraser right now is because I don't need the details yet. I don't need to get in super tight. And what this is going to do is create a more sort of painterly look, because I'm not getting regular shapes either. I'm getting very, very irregular with just using random parts of this eraser. Makeup sponge. It has been a while since I've done some art too. I've been focusing so much on YouTube lately that I have not been focusing on my art whatsoever. And it's just a big jump into YouTube and making sure that you stick with this every single week. And there's a lot to learn. Cameras, live streams, shorts. And then going into the Facebook world, you have your reels, same with Instagram. There's just so much to learn when you're doing this content creation stuff that it's easy to get sidetracked and do all that other stuff and not really focus much on what you want to, which is the art. So that's what I want to do anyways. I think I like that overall composition. I gotta bring it back around with this little guy and the flashlight looking at the book. And sometimes I do over exaggerate so I don't forget things later. Like one of the drawings I was showing earlier, there's no little bubbles coming from the little adventurer. And it's like, uh-oh, might need that. So I want to make sure that I actually get bubbles from the little guy. All right, let's go back in with pencil. And even though that this is a lot darker, I am going relatively light. Again, just because I'm looking at my sketch down here, I'm not looking at any other reference material at this time. I will be bringing other reference material in, but I want to make sure to go really light at this time, especially because there's no telling how much of this that I'm going to want to erase and get rid of. And if I push too hard into this, then you'll see that show up in the final drawing. Unless I can cleverly disguise it as something else, which is usually what I try to do with my mistakes. Try to make them look like they were not mistakes. Spine of the book. I'd imagine that's going to be a very dark spot right there. Not much light should be hitting that. Well, there's this guy. So some light's going to come from this beam, and the water is going to be actually diluting that a little bit. All right. I'm just standing up and standing back from the drawing for a second. Stephanie, thank you for asking, my awesome wife. What does it mean to be painterly, especially when you're referring to pencil? So painterly, a lot of times people will refer to when something has a certain style that looks like it had paint applied. You can almost see the brush strokes. It looks very painted. So it looks painterly, is how I take that at least. And so whenever it comes to a drawing like this, what it means to be painterly is almost what I was saying earlier, is that it looks almost like it was brushed on there. This doesn't look like pencil right here. So to me, it has a more paint-like effect than it does a standard pencil drawing. So that's what I mean whenever I think it's more painterly, especially when referring to a pencil drawing, is it looks more like it was brushed on as opposed to creating with just your standard pencils. Oh, music isn't playing. Thank you, sweetie. She texted me. Let's get some music going. How is that relative to my voice? I don't know if that is a good volume, if you can hear anything. Let me know. I think I'm going to take this guy in a little bit in the backs. Well, I don't know. He's cute having a pudgy butt, right? There we go. Well, I need to come back down and in for this part of the fin. So I need to consider that. I need to come in over here too. This is sometimes where I will mess up. And that's where I already have a little bit of a dark layer here. Might even be hard to see that I'm making it even darker with the pencil right here, but I'll go in and erase and you'll be able to see that in a second. But I usually mess up here because I want to also be able to see the darker lines that I'm putting down. And so sometimes I'll press a little bit too hard right there, and that'll make it really tough to erase, even with an electric eraser. I'm just kind of guessing on this book. It does the opening of the pages, and then it just folds out to all the pages. I'll make sure that that line is the same as this. And I think I came in a little bit too much on this side over here. That's better. I'm gonna stand up again and just take a look at my drawing. And this is good to do every few minutes, is back away from your artwork, take a look at it. Even though I can look up on my monitor and see this from almost like I'm stepping back, it's totally different whenever you take a minute, step back. And I'm just trying to figure out compositionally if I like this, if I like the placement of everything. The little guy, I'm gonna make him even smaller than this scale. You can't see that over my name. Than this scale over here. Because if I make him smaller, then the whale in the book will look much, much larger. I think that's what I want to do. And I'll do that from time to time. I'll go super silent because I'm just really thinking about what I'm doing and the placement of everything. I think that's good. Let's get back in with the eraser so I can kind of see this line a little bit better over here. And I'll blend all this in better just a little bit. This way I can see what I'm doing right now. So one cool tip that I have for drawing, and I'm self-taught. If you have any good self-taught tips that you have, by the way, I would love to hear them. Let me know in the comments. But one thing that I learned is that if I get rid of the pencil marks that I make, that is a way to make my drawing look exponentially more professional, more polished, more finished. It really takes it to the next level. So even though you might see some pencil sketches right now and things like that, I plan on making almost every single pencil line go away. That's going to be my goal so that it looks like the surface that it's intended to be. That's probably a pretty obvious one, but you know, when you're self-taught, nobody's telling you little things like that. All right, we're going for his nose. So this part, let's use a lighter pencil because this is going to be where the sunlight is hitting the whale from the upper right. That's what I think we decided earlier, is we're going to go kind of from this angle. So the sunlight's going to be coming here. So this would be, and this is where he's white as well. So this would be almost super, super light. And the water around it is what's going to make it pop a little bit more. One thing that I know that is wrong about this sketch over here, by the way, is whales' mouths don't come like that. I think it's actually more like in here. So I'm going to go back and refer to some reference images before I go through and actually make those decisions. One thing that I know that I like that I've seen in a lot of the reference images of whales is that they have all these little bumps and nodules. And I think that just is going to add a lot of really cool detail up at the top. So we're going to refer to a few different images when we're looking at those. If you're joining us live, let us know where you're coming from. I am in and around Asheville, North Carolina, also known as Beer City. It really is. And there are so many little microbreweries around here. But that is where I am from in the United States. And let me know what your favorite medium is. If it's pencil drawing, if it's something else. So this is just your typical eraser. I'm just getting rid of some of these lines that I made earlier that I definitely know that I do not want. Getting rid of outlines was something that I was told in high school, but not by my art teacher. I don't even remember who it was. And they said, real life doesn't have outlines. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. Again, it's one of those obvious things, but somebody had to tell me. And then when I got rid of all my outlines, the quality of my drawings just skyrocketed. Hey, Jill, how are you doing? Thank you for joining me. Oh, and we got your book. Hang on. I'm promoting this. My cousin just came out with this book. She's joining us live, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet because we just got it in, but I am super excited about this book. Without Concealment, Without Compromise, the Courageous Lives of Black Civil War Surgeons. Very, very cool, Jill. You can get the book on Amazon. Can't wait to take a look at it. Stephanie's super excited too. So congratulations on getting your book published. I'm just going to make a little bit more highlight here because the sun's coming from this direction, so that's where we're going to highlight this. And then the other page is the other end of the book. That's going to get hit too. So we got to think about that little bit of light loss whenever the book rolls over. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do for this book. Part of me wants to, again, do that like sort of default what everybody thinks I should do, which is probably Moby Dick. But I don't think he was this kind of whale, for one. Believe I'm drawing a sperm whale, and well, Moby Dick was just referred to as the great white whale, right? I don't know, but that's the one everybody would expect me to do. Part of me wants to do something silly, just, that's me, and my wife and I love Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and they flip through the book and Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and I absolutely love that. And but I think I should save that for a different drawing. So I think the book is a little bit too large on the right side. I need to bring that in some. There we go. Just kind of getting a more even tone. I'll get an even better even tone in just a minute. Which is one really simple little hack. I'll show you guys that in just a second. Really, really easy to get even shading without a lot of work. So that'll be a flashlight, so that's obviously going to be bright. All right. Take a sip of water. So here's my hack. Toilet paper. That's it. Seriously, I love using toilet paper in drawings. Super, super easy way. Get linty. Super easy way to smooth out all these different values in much more even tone throughout the entire bit of water there. I always thought I was a really, really clean person, and then I ended up looking at how much I get all over the place with just pencil drawings. So, I really thought I was a lot cleaner than that, but I am a messy artist. Man, this toilet paper is just falling apart, especially when I hit the edges. You guys have any ideas what the book should be? Please let me know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Should I just go with Moby Dick? I don't think so. But I don't know what. Could always go with Jill's book, right? Put that in here. Probably doesn't go with the theme, though. All right. So the interesting thing is that everything is sort of off to the left here. Like his fin ends up way over here. I guess when I finish this guy out, he's going to come over here. It's not really entirely centered. So I don't need it centered. I don't like my drawings to be completely centered, but there's something slightly off with the composition. And I think it's that this fin is too close to this left side. And so maybe instead of going that far out, like he's trying to get a high five, maybe we just bring him in a little bit closer. He's trying to be more streamlined or something. Something like that. Ooh, Stephanie says Matilda. It would be cute if the whale's favorite book was Matilda because Matilda's favorite book was Moby Dick. Oh, now that is a cute idea. Now, if I go with just your idea, though, everybody's going to say that it's just because you're my wife. But that's a cute idea. And Matilda was an adorable movie. All right, let's see how much of this I can get rid of, or if I goofed that up too much. Nah, that's pretty easy. Okay. So you can see there's a little bit of his fin left. If I probably pressed really hard, I could get rid of that, but that's okay because we're going to end up adding some graphite right back to this. Boop, boop, boop. It's like a repair patch. And then blend it in with the toilet paper. Voila. All right, cool. I think I like that compositionally a lot better. Wait. Matilda was a book. What? I don't know. My wife's picking on me. All right, I'm gonna do that thing like I said. I'm gonna step back from it for a second, take a look at it. I definitely like that compositionally better than his fin being out here. Yeah. All right, now the thing that I do not like is I think he is way too tall and skinny. I think I want a little bit fatter of a whale. I want a little plump whale. Right, let's make this guy a little chubby. You did not do your P90X. I think that would be better. Comes out here, nose a little bit wider, go up there. Yeah, everything's kind of shifting that way a little bit. I think I like that better though. And is that about right? This one comes down a little bit further. That way, there's some sort of perspective lines going off like that way is what I'm thinking. So I'm just trying to make sure that the fins look like they're the same size overall. It's getting lit from the sun, so that's what that is. And then we're going to go back to darker out here. I think I like that better. Thank you, Lenny. You're awesome. Let's get... Where'd it go? I lost my makeup sponge. Oh, I didn't. Found it. Okay. Got my makeup sponge. My graphite powder. And there we go. All that's filled back in. back in a little bit. And let's fill that in too. All right. If you are joining us live, let us know where you are hailing from. Here in North Carolina, it was really pretty outside today. Really pretty. I should have done some on plein air drawing or painting. I'm really getting into oil painting these days as a big challenge and a lot more fun than I ever thought it would be. Hey, Deborah, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us. Was it nice in Florida today? All right. I think overall I like that composition. I think the fin ended up okay. Over here needs to definitely come in though. And let's make always nice in Florida. I know you like the weather down there much better than you like it up here. I like my seasons though. I know Stephanie misses her beach time though in Florida. She was a beach girl for sure. All right. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I think his nose goes a little too tall. Just a touch though. Take that in just like that. All right. Always drives my wife crazy, but one of my favorite things to do is touch my artwork, especially my paintings. My drawings I don't touch so much because you can't really feel anything on these other than whenever I'm working. Look at, I told you I was messy. But man, when it comes to my paintings, I love just running my hands over the paintings because you're not allowed to do that in museums. So if you make your own artwork and your own paintings and you get some of that nice impasto paint on there, then I don't know, I like to be able to just run my hands over my paintings. Leave me alone. It's my painting, right? Can't tell her that because she won't say it's her, or it's not my painting anymore. It's her painting, right? All right, there we go. And one more time, I'm going to take our toilet paper, get rid of some of those lines in there. That's fine. We don't need to get rid of all those right now because that's the water, and we're going to want some texture in that water. We don't want it to just be completely flat. As it goes deeper, it'll get more flat because it'll get darker and you'll be able to see a lot less things in the water. All right, let's take some more of this graphite powder and put it down here just so we can get our composition looking correct with that water depth. Thank you for joining me on my first live. Really appreciate all of you guys. If you're watching this on the replay, let me know with hashtag replay. If you're live, just say hello. All right, I think I like that other than obviously that dark spot above his nose, but I was just trying to make that more defined. And then I don't have my scuba diver in here at all. And they're gonna be extra dark down here. And they're gonna have the little bit of highlights coming off the top. So that'll separate them nicely, I think, from the background. Need an eraser up here. A little bit. Now this is a really fun way to draw too. Like, I barely touched that pencil. I'm going to a lot here in a second, but it's just a different way to approach it. And ever since I started doing this a little bit, I just had a lot more fun doing this in the long run. That makes so much dust. I need different toilet paper. Okay. Stepping back one more time. I think I like that. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. Let's get into a little bit more detail now, I'm thinking. I'm going to take my 8B pencil. I'm going to kind of just put that graphite powder aside, or else I know me, I will knock it everywhere. All right. So with the 8B, I'm just going for a little bit darker spots to start, just laying in those deeper shadows and trying to get a little bit more defined line to the backside of this guy. Right now, just going everything based off of this. I think very, very soon what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to pull up some reference images on my computer. And I'm not going to be drawing from any one reference image. I like to take a lot of different reference images, look at them, and kind of just learn from them. Just study the shape of the eye for a minute off of like 5, 6, 7 different images. And then you'll learn what the whale's eye looks like. And then you can draw that almost without having to think about it. And then it's a neat way to get your sort of visual memory going, because as you start learning things in that level of detail, you'll end up being able to commit it to memory. And then next time, I won't have to look at so many reference images to just draw a whale's eye, being very specific in that instance. But I won't have to look at the reference images as much. So then I'll know how to do this in the future and be able to make up my own art. Because that is one thing that I really struggle with, is making up things from scratch. This does not look right. This looks way off. Sorry, just noticed that. His fin's going to come in from like here. It is not going to come all the way down there, because then that should line up about there. All right, so we're going to add there. But I am terrible at coming up with my own ideas. Well, I can come up with some of my own ideas like this one, but obviously this one is just a play on words, but I can't draw out of my head. If somebody said, hey, draw a whale, before this one, there's no way I'd be able to do it. After I do this drawing, I know that I'll have that committed to memory. But some people are just so gifted with that. Like, if you've never seen Kim Jung-gi, he was an amazing, amazing artist. God rest his soul. That dude was just so phenomenal. And he ended up being able to just create these works out of his head that were just absolutely insane, whole scenes, that just something that I would love to do a fraction of that, right? I'm sure most people that do art would, but I cannot come up with things just out of my head. I almost always have to look at some sort of reference image. So when I look at those reference images, I really am trying to learn. That way, I'm not stealing from somebody else's image. I might take an idea of composition from one image. I might take, an idea on lighting from another image, and then kind of in my drawing, it's kind of like I'm doing my own little Photoshop, but just in my drawing itself. So I said I don't like outlines, and we're going to go ahead and just get rid of that one. I'm just going to take a blending stump, just go right along the edge, and we'll just keep defining that more and more. One thing that this also lets me do whenever I end up drawing this way is it's another thing that makes it that sort of painterly look like we were talking about earlier is that I'm creating layers whenever I do this. I'm not drawing one little thing at a time and then moving on to the next part. I'm handling the drawing in full, sort of one layer at a time. I've got my base layer down. I'm going in, I'm starting to add a little bit more detail, and it's going to keep evolving that way. But what happens is because I'll build up over time in the layers, ends up creating a really nice effect that I don't see a lot of artists utilize when it comes to pencil drawings. Usually it's you just draw one area, you're done, you move on to the next. But with this, that's how I really like to work, is the whole drawing on a certain level, almost like a certain layer, and then go back and then add more to it. I think this just needs to be a little bit darker still. And I think I need to define down here better. Let's do that with extending his belly down. I think I did a little bit better in that. And what that'll do is cause some just separation between the whale and the water, since it was kind of getting all dark all around the same value as well, which I don't want. I think I want him to be a little bit both lighter and darker, mostly around this level, and then it be darker down here. Maybe we'll start to lose some of the book when it gets into the depths a little bit more. Honey just said hi. Well, hi, honey. I have my door closed, so my dogs are currently out of the room at the moment. But I was kind of thinking that it'd be fun to set up. I've seen some streamers do it. They'll set up like a pet cam whenever they're streaming. And Luna is just crazy enough. I have a dog and she's deaf, and she's crazy enough to film like 24/7. All right. That's starting to get there. I'm just defining that edge a little bit more over here. All right, let's go back in with our pencil. I'm kind of do the same thing up here. I'm gonna just go really light with this 4B pencil. Try and get just a little bit more definition. Who are some of my favorite artists? I would have to go with, Leonardo da Vinci was always a clear front runner, but I think as an artist as a whole, I'm really digging JMW Turner. I don't know. There's something that's fascinating in that guy's work. He did a lot of things that were right around that turn of the century, where there were steamboats and power was going to trains and engines were coming around and all this stuff. And I think he really set the stage for people like Claude Monet and others like that, other impressionists. So I think, man, it used to be Da Vinci, and it feels almost insanely wrong not saying Leonardo da Vinci, but I think I'm gonna have to say that Turner is starting to be my front runner. Leonardo da Vinci just didn't do a whole ton of work, He did amazing work, and Leonardo da Vinci, I think, is always going to have that special place in my heart. But anywho, you didn't ask who my favorite was. Some of my favorite artists. Besides Turner, I'm going to have to go with Monet. I love Claude Monet. Still too dark up here by his nose. Let me take my kneaded eraser. I'm gonna do some of that stretching it, because what it's gonna do is create a really kind of sort of fluffy. Well, I think of other artists. Who are some of your guys' favorite artists? Let me know in the comments. I'm usually not a big fan of modern artists, though. Like my wife and I just watched. If you haven't seen the YouTube channel, Great Art Explained, wonderful YouTube channel. And I know I'm gonna butcher the name, but Jean-Michel Basquiat, I think, the black guy that was around Pollock a lot. I think it was not Pollock, Warhol. He was around Warhol a lot, and he had some really cool work. And there's a artist locally, unfortunately, also passed away, and the guy was just phenomenal. And he did so much work that was a lot like Basquiat's work. Please let me know if I'm butchering that. I don't know how you'd let me know the pronunciation, but yeah, I do really like that style of work. That was really cool, and because it had so much emotion tied to it, and you could feel that. Whereas if I see somebody's work like, oh man, what was the guy's name? Mark Rothko, where it's just blocks of color. I might have said that one wrong too. I don't get it. That type of work doesn't inspire me. It doesn't make me think any differently. And I can appreciate modern art, but it's got to make me think or feel something. And I just don't get that with blocks of color. Oh yeah, Van Gogh. Van Gogh, definitely one of my favorites. I actually, if you haven't seen my YouTube channel, I've been doing some shorts with Van Gogh Bear. Van Gogh Bear has been hilarious. He's teaching some of his own little YouTube stuff. But he's doing YouTube shorts and Facebook Reels right now. And I think the bear is getting more likes than me, and I'm getting kind of jealous. So I was thinking the bear might do some long videos or something too. I don't know. The bear's pretty awesome though. Why, thank you, Jill. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm better listen. Well, the bear's a better listener. I think I'm a pretty good listener. The bear's definitely a better listener though. I'm a better talker, and I think that makes for a little bit more interesting, compelling videos. So I'll probably still keep the channel, not let the bear have so much time to shine. You can see over on the shorts where he belongs. I'm just taking my just rubber eraser. Faber-Castell is the one that I prefer. Almost everything by them I just really like. But just adding some of these lines in the whale just to get some more texture. Really easy, nothing that I'm doing. Anybody can do what I'm doing. If you've never drawn before, like, follow along. I'm not doing anything crazy. I've been drawing with toilet paper and a makeup sponge so far, for the most part. And so anybody can do this. There's just a couple of little tips and tricks to learn along the way. And you have to learn how to observe and flatten images. And what I mean by flatten images is you're trying to take something in a 3-dimensional space, put it in a 2-dimensional space, but in that 2-dimensional space, look at 3-dimensional again. Sounds tough, and sometimes it can be, but there are tricks, and I'm going to end up teaching those. But anybody can do what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything special. Seems like I am, just because I've done this for so long. And when you do this from being a kid, you put in more hours doing this than anything else. So you get your hours in really, really fast as a kid because you're not doing anything. So whenever you're just drawing full time, people don't realize, they're like, oh, you're so talented. It's like, no, I put in the work. You just didn't see it, you know? So anybody can do drawings. And I'm definitely not being precise with anything I'm doing here, so. Oh, yeah, John Singer Sargent, great artist. I think the second most expensive art book I've ever purchased was a John Singer Sargent book. First was being actually a digital artist named Feng Zhu. I really, really liked Feng Zhu. He was doing a ton on YouTube, FZD School of Design, just a phenomenal artist. And so I think with that one, I bought for like $125 a long time ago. But he signed it, and I treasure that book. That's one I don't really let anybody touch. It's my special book. But then I have a John Singer Sargent book, and it's of his watercolors when he was over in Venice, and it's just stunning. John Singer Sargent did so many great works. So many people think of him as just an oil painter, but his watercolors are just something special. And there's a video that the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston did of John Singer Sargent's watercolors. I highly recommend looking that one up on YouTube. That is a great video. And like I said, I had no idea that Sargent did anything but oil painting until I watched that and then saw some of his watercolors, and I was just blown away. And if you're just joining us, we're just talking about our favorite artists right now. If you have some of your favorite artists, let me know in the comments. George O'Keeffe. Yeah, a lot of people love George O'Keeffe. I wasn't a big fan, but it's just Blown Up Flowers is the main ones that I saw when I was younger, and I didn't really look at or respect her work until I got older. And then again, that Great Art Explained on YouTube, that guy does some amazing videos. And I think he did one on George O'Keeffe, and she was one cool lady. Even if you don't like her artwork, like, man, she was a neat person. All right, I think that's it for the base layer. I like where that's going. I want to get more detail now, and so I think I'm going to switch over from looking at my reference image here so much, or my reference sketch, and I'm just going to I'm not going to show the reference images that I'm looking at because I'm sure some of these are copywritten images, but I'm not mimicking, I'm not drawing exactly what I see in these images. I'm going to look through at a couple different whales' eyes, and I'm seeing some different shapes, all with the same type of whale. They all kind of have a similar, okay, I have like a sideways teardrop shape eye, and it's almost encompassed by a bigger lid. All right, so I'll show you what I mean by that. Let's grab, I think 4B. I'm gonna erase in here a little bit so that I can just see a little bit better in here. I don't want to erase everything. All right, but they have this sort of sideways teardrop shape of an eye. So, and it goes like that. Okay, and then they have, on some images, you see it a lot more than others. It looks like almost the shape of like a human eye around it, that football shape. All right. And some of them have a bigger tail off the end of the top part of the eye. All right. And then what I like to do with almost every single eye that I draw, whether it's animal or person, is we'll get that filled in a little bit. And then I'm going to go in with my electric eraser. We're gonna get just a little highlight in there. I like doing that because it really sort of brings the character to life. And that's something that they do in cinema a lot. Whenever I was watching the behind the scenes of, nerd alert coming, when I was watching the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings, they ended up doing, or Peter Jackson was explaining how they lit Lady Galadriel's eyes. And it was with all these Christmas lights basically on a stick. And it was creating this really cool set of reflections in her eyes. And that's what made her look more magical than the rest of the characters, because they only did that with her. And so whenever I'm drawing eyes of any kind, I always like to add at least one little highlight, because if you're looking at it, it might be really hard to see on here, but I'm adding a little highlight right in here, and that's going to make all the difference of the character's life really being there or not. And the more magical I want it to look, the more whimsical I want it to look, then I would probably do more of that sort of Lady Galadriel style, and I'd add a lot more of those sort of spectral highlights in the eye. All right. So that's just a general idea of the whale eye. I don't think anybody's going to call me out if that's wrong. Because again, I'm looking at reference images, but like I said, I don't want to steal from anybody. Geez, that's like the last thing we'd want to do is take anything that's a copywritten image and all the stuff that people are having trouble with AI art doing. Definitely don't want to do that kind of stuff. So that's why I look up, I'm looking at the reference images, get an idea of what's going on over there, and then I look back down. One cool thing with the whales is that we can end up having all sorts of different shapes of the white area. So just like a dog with different spots, whales have all sorts of different spots that I can add too. So if I want to add more character in this guy, I could add a lot more spots. If I want it to be more focused on him in the book, maybe, and I want to take the eye down here, I would add less spots, because then that would give me less detail. And whenever you have less detail, the eye looks at the area less. And the more detail you have, the eye looks at that area more. So if I want the focus to not go so much to him, I'll draw, and like, I'm thinking like the back here, right? Or up in here, of drawing some extra spots for the whale. I don't want to detract from the idea of whale of a tail, then I think I'll do less spots. Is basically what I'm trying to say. But in a lot of words. All right. Like that. I'm seeing some reference images where they have like this one whale, it's kind of down here. He has this really cool like extra black line going up and around, and it looks neat because it's kind of pushing some pushing the eye over towards his eye some, which is kind of neat. So I don't want to go that far down there though. I don't want it to detract from here. So I think I'll do a little bit of that idea, which was like that. And these guys have all sorts of cool lines going right by their eyes. All right. I like that. And this whale reference image is almost all black in here, but I think I want to go do a little bit of spot around the eye because I want his eye to stand out. And then I want it to look, I don't want it to look like I tried to make it stand out, right? I want it to blend in. So I think I'm gonna get rid of some of that white there. Keep a little bit above the eye, sort of in this area. I'll go in with an eraser and make that a little bit brighter in there. That's one thing about drawing animals like this is I get to kind of be the complete creator of exactly what this animal looks like, because I'm not worried about just copying an image. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. It's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do. But I get to choose his fun little shapes, his quirks, his patterns. I think that's what makes art so fun, is the creation process. If I was just simply trying to copy, which I used to do just all the time, that's actually how I learned to do art, was just copying images. But I think it's a lot more freeing when you choose not to just copy. You're making something, and because I'm learning from all the other stuff that I'm looking at, I get to make whatever I want. All right, just grabbing the kneaded eraser again. Love this thing. You can turn it into any shape you want. Yeah, I think I like that. Get some separation. You know, the thing that we do lose is I was trying to accentuate the eye a little bit, and we ended up losing the eye some and all that. So let's take the electric eraser, add that white back there, add that spot in the eye for the highlight. I might play around with that eye a little bit more in a little while. I'm not sold on this shape. Thought that this was going to be a good idea right here, but it seems to detract from it, I think, more so. Do I ever worry about the eraser tearing the paper? Yeah. I've definitely dug into the paper a little bit, but you have to really push pretty hard with the electric eraser, like into the paper, to get it to do that, especially when you're using paper like this. This is Arches, and I love this paper. Really great brand. It's watercolor paper, hot press, and hot press is what makes it smooth. But because it's 100% cotton, it doesn't tear like regular paper. So it can withhold things like your electric erasers a little bit better than just sort of your standard paper could. So if I was drawing on what I used to draw on, which was Strathmore, the drawing paper, then I would be probably a little bit more concerned about the electric eraser just going straight through that. So I'm just going to stand back for a second. The eye is coming out a little bit better, especially after adding that highlight. We'll work that probably a little bit more. I think I need to add some more definition into his body, though, because it's just empty space is kind of throwing things off for me. So let's get some shading going on. Again, we got the light coming from this direction, so we have to be mindful of the shape of this guy and how that light is going to affect the shadows and where those shadows fall. So just a little bit of shading in here, I think. Now I'll go in with an eraser a little bit. Some over here. I think we would lose probably a lot more of this definition in his gut, because I think the light would probably fall off if I'm going from this direction. It'd probably really fall off when it starts to get down here. And it's water, so things will refract a little bit, but not that much. And I'm just trying to get some of the basic lines of the whale going through here. Like you saw how earlier I cover the whole thing with graphite. I'm kind of doing a little bit, I guess, of that on his body as well. As I'm covering him with graphite, even though I'm being a little bit more purposeful with the lines, covering them in graphite so that way I can go in with the eraser, create some more of that just definition and highlights that'll really sort of draw the rest of that out. Okay. All right, let's add still general lighting. I think I need to focus that a little bit on his body still. Brightest area up top. So he's going to be similar to the background where he's getting darker as we go further down his body. I think that gives a little bit more, just a touch more definition. Let's go in with a pencil again. It's been a while since we've done a pencil in this pencil drawing. So let's see. I'm going to just do some different waving lines to show the different shapes and curve of this guy. And then we're going to get rid of these pencil drawings or pencil lines again in just a second so that they don't look like pencil lines. And that way they look more like highs and lows within, it's like the way that the whale looks, it looks like it's sort of almost like waves. You got the highs and the lows. I'm doing that in front of me, but yeah, to the camera, highs and lows. Right, so this is going to be a little trough part of his ridges, like a ruffled chip. And some lines get closer, some lines get further. But this is where it gets said, be fun adding a lot of detail. You know what? I liked that before I just did what I did. One thing that I don't like about the electric eraser is that sometimes it will smudge, and it seems almost impossible once it smudges the pencil into the paper. It seems almost impossible to get that out. I don't know if the actual part of the eraser is digging in or what's happening at that point, but that's one thing that gets to be a little bit annoying with the electric erasers when it does do that. And I haven't figured out what always causes it. Sometimes maybe pushing a little too hard into the paper and the electric eraser is biting off and then going into the paper. But you can see what I'm, maybe you can't see what I'm doing. So you can see what I'm doing, zoom in. All right, so what I'm doing with the blending stump is I'm taking these lines that I just made and I'm really sort of softening them. And I'm trying to get rid of any look of that pencil line. And what'll happen is as I do this, it's naturally going to sort of feather out. And it's going to start to create this sort of illusion of something being rounded. Because it gradually is getting darker towards where I drew that line. And then at the center of that line, it's the darkest. See how much nicer that makes it look? Just on like these two lines right here. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but from my seat, it looks more realistic. It looks like it's actual texture sort of rolling. And then the way that we can make that just pop a little bit more is go back in with our eraser. I'm gonna go for the other end that's sort of covered up. So I got more of a point. And if I go right on the very, very middle of the light area, then that'll create that highlight that just the top part would get, and then it'll sort of round off. All right, so that's what I'm trying to do with this blending stump, is I'm trying to get rid of all those little lines, all those little hash marks I made. Looks too much like pencil. It's too much like a drawing, and I want realism. Smudge out the line. Automatically creates that look that I'm going for. It's pretty cool. And then eraser to add that little bit of highlight. No, just got to do that a lot more times, then I'll have the texture of a whale. Oh man, that's a lot. That's gonna be a lot of lines to draw. That's okay. Definitely not as much as the octopus guy that I've drawn. That guy was crazy. I got tired of drawing. I don't know if you've ever run into that, where while you're doing a piece of art, you're just like, I love this, but when is it just gonna end? There's so much detail. So this one I don't think is gonna be like that. The octopus had so many little tiny grooves that I had to draw. It was insane. It was too much. Cool drawing in the end, though. Guess it was worth it, but it's one of those that I didn't have as much fun with at the near the end of it as I did when I started out making it. Whereas this one, I think I'm going to enjoy right up to the end, because it's got that just enough detail without going insane. All right, and let's get some more lines going on his belly. And then we need to add some imperfections. That's one of the things that I think artists end up really liking. Like when they draw people, they like to draw older people. They got all those battle scars and stuff. And same thing with these animals. They're out there struggling to survive. They need to have their imperfections and their battle scars too. It adds all that extra character. You know, how did he get that? Where was he? With me, it's always something silly like, oh, he tripped over his own shoelace, you know, banged his head or something. It's never anything cool. This guy's like, yeah, I took on like 8 sharks. What of it? So the way that we're going to create some of those battle scars, I'm going to lose some of this definition in here. Like want to define it more and lose it somehow. I think just making it softer is actually going to end up helping. Get back in. And you'll notice I do that a lot in my drawings. I'll take something, I'll spend some time on it, and I'll just mess it up intentionally. Creates a cool looking like texture when you're done though. And again, it's just that showing work, showing layers in this guy. All right, so let's add some battle scars. So one battle scar I think I want to add. Let's see. maybe like right up here, I think. Do that. Taking a highlight straight across like that. Now we're going to get in here with this. We're adding a little bit more graphite back on to just lose some of that harsh edge. Okay. And then go in with, I'm going to go with 2B. And we're just going to add some shadow. We still got to follow the shape of these little waves, these little ridges. All right. So what's happening is because the light is coming from this direction, the shading is underneath. It's going to be like this was cut into. This is one of his battle scars, right? Don't worry, this is going to blend in a lot better in just a second. But then the light is coming down still from this direction. So then it's hitting the top of this surface, like of these ridges, right? So that's what we're doing. We want to create the light actually on the bottom side and the shadow on the top because the light is coming from the top. There we go. All right, and let's go back in. Where's my little blending stump? Did I lose that? I'm holding it. It's like when you're walking around with your glasses on your face and you're like, where did I put my glasses? Where did I put my blending stump? Oh, it's literally in my hand. Okay. Thanks, me. Those ridges continue up above. All right. And then what we're going to do to get rid of a lot of this, because I don't want it to stand out that much. He has a battle scar, but, you know, he's an awesome dude. So, right, he didn't get beat up too bad. So we got to take away some of that, make it look more like it was just part of him. That way, when you're looking at this, you're not focused on, look at that scar and that scar. Now, another thing that we got to do is add a couple more of these, much smaller, but throughout. That way, it's more of a texture and not just, well, I wonder why he has a cut right there or something like that. So, want to make it realistic, but we need the story to work in our favor. All right. I'm gonna do some more overall shading and coming around just to give his body a little bit more curves. And just overall shape. So it looks nice and three-dimensional. His eye's coming back now, and I'm starting to like that a little bit. So there's I just need to work it a little bit more, and then I'll stand out the way I really want it to. Let's do. I'm just trying to create texture now to go and blend from this top part to the bottom, where his scale. What does the whale have? Is it scales? Are all fishy things scaly? I don't even know. It's not scales, right? Because you touch whale, it's soft. Is it skin? the things that we ask ourselves when we're making art, real life-changing questions, right? All right, I like where he's going. I'm just stepping back, taking a look at him, just seeing how I like the composition so far. I think I like the scar okay-ish. Maybe when I get a little bit more definition around it, kind of get rid of it some. And I think, like I said, when I add the other little bits in, let's add a couple little spots. I'm seeing that whales have little speckles sometimes throughout with their different tones and skin color. What? Somebody look that up. I need a marine biologist in here to help me out with this. Like that. Let's do some of that texture. Leave some of this area wider. Making it up as we go. All right, let's switch to 8B pencil again. And get some of the much, much darker areas back over here. Where the light would be hitting the least would probably be under here. So what I could do right now is right underneath his fin. Okay, this is probably going to be the darkest area of the whole drawing other than the scuba diver. Because the scuba diver will be wearing black, as most scuba divers do. So if I want to get a good idea of my range of values, rough like sandpaper, like a shark. Have you got to pet whales? I got to know how you know this. Or did you just Google? It'd be really impressive if you're like, yeah, I pet whales all the time. Blubber and barnacles. Is that what it's made out of? Is that what their skin texture is? Blubber and barnacles. Right. I think right around here would be getting really pretty dark too. This is going to be the biggest fall off of light coming from the right. Let's make some of these ridges I see in reference images get really dark, like they are really deep grooves. So maybe that's what we need, right? Come back with our 8B pencil up here in the eye. Let's make some really, let's be bold, make some dark marks. Somebody go, that's not a whale eye. Be like, oh, darn it. I just made the dark marks. Almost sounds like I'm saying dark mark, like something you make with Dormammu. Awesome. I have never done deep water fishing. I've barely done regular fishing. I always felt like I was hurting the fish, even though people are like, it's just cartilage, they can't feel it. And I'm like, but still. I cried when I killed a snake, so, and I was like 36 at the time. I wasn't young. I like bawled like a baby because I was like, I killed a snake and I heard it. I was being aggressive though. Being very aggressive. So even if it doesn't hurt a fish, I just feel like I don't know if I could do that. Stephanie could do that. She's like, I will fish and feed our family. I'm like, I will watch you fish. I think I need to get rid of some of this on the outside. And we're going to end up dealing with a really weird color transition, I think, in values around here because I want to let's maybe add a little bit extra highlight on his little tail part there. And this is still supposed to be white into this area. So let's add a little bit of white back in. Find these ridges down here with the eraser more than the pencil. I really, as you could probably see, I use an eraser just as much, if not more, than a pencil. And it has nothing to do with just making mistakes, though. I make them constantly and then try and fix them and make more mistakes. But I really, really just like drawing with erasers. It's so much fun. Because you can create so many different looks just drawing with different things. Now, I feel like that's not right. Maybe that is right. No, it's this part I'm having a problem with. I need to define this fin more, I think. Not so much of a highlight like I was thinking. Deborah, you are a beast. Stephanie's told me about some of the going fishing and all the sharks that you guys catch at, like I think St. Augustine Pier or the Jacksonville Pier. One of those. That's so cool. Yeah, I feel like all right, I could catch a shark, right? I might, maybe it's like I couldn't fish and feel like I'm hurting something like Nemo, but if it was something I felt like was going to hurt me back, maybe I could catch a shark. I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to be a fish kind of guy other than drawing because they're super cool to draw. I guess my hands though would probably get they'd probably be cleaner after fishing. This is ridiculous. I get so much graphite on my hands when I'm doing this. All right, just stepping back and take a quick drink of water. I don't like this fin. I'm having issues with this fin. Maybe it's because it's supposed to be, the outside is supposed to be dark. My reference image is light, but that's wrong. The highlight should still be coming from this direction, but the tone should be reversed because you should have white underneath and be darker on the outside. So even though light is hitting this area here, that would still be black or gray or whatever color this guy would actually be. I think that's why I'm not liking it. It wasn't making sense. And then let's go in with, start off with the kneaded eraser. That's what I'm saying. I love that you can make those different shapes. So I'm just getting kind of a flat eraser here. Go underneath. I think that's more in line with that, but need to. Got my aunt and uncle texting me. You guys are awesome. They're watching this and sending me pictures of it. If you guys know how to comment on Facebook or on YouTube, you can do so. But if you're not logged in, it won't let you. All right, I think that looks a little bit better. Still not fully digging it. I got to play around with the fact that the light's coming from up here and it's dark. I think I just need to go darker there and then go lighter on the water. I think that's what it is. Some of that definition there. Just get rid of those outlines again. We don't like our outlines. My toilet paper. All right. Sharks are like puppies. You can even hypnotize them. What you have to be afraid of is eels and the barracuda. Yes. Those eels are freaky, man. If you've ever been scuba diving and seen those eels, and they just like look back at you, it's like, oh my gosh. It sees me, it knows me. It's thinking, it's going to look me up on Facebook later. It's going to hunt me down and get me. All right. This is another thing I like to have around, is just a lint-free cloth. I actually bought a big, huge pack of them on Amazon. I usually use this more like I use toilet paper, but in paintings. However, I'm finding that whenever I'm using it in drawings, it's really nice because I'm still able to move around the graphite like I am with toilet paper. Not quite as much, but nothing's going to come off in lint all over the drawing like the toilet paper is whenever I use that to sort of blend around here. So use a couple of different things like that. Let's get more definition in here. This side would be darker from the light. All right, and then blending stump again to get rid of these pencil lines. Blend it all in together. And let's separate it out just a little bit further from that background, making the background a little bit lighter in here. All right, like that. Got this weird sort of dark halo going on around him, though. I think we're just going to make this area darker. Get rid of some of that halo effect. Makeup brush or makeup pad, sponge. There we go. I know I'd eventually get the right word. Toilet paper. You know what? I need to get that makeup sponge one more time out here. There we go. Now we're getting around the same tone. Around all of that. And then now I need to go over here on the left. Let's balance that out. All right, I'm liking this. Usually I have very white paper just throughout the whole drawing, and that's so hard to keep white, especially like when you're doing this type of mess. So this is a lot nicer. It's a lot more relaxing having all this graphite down, because like I can do this and it's like, oh, whatever. Okay. This has got to be terrible for my electronics, though. They're all around this. I'm liking where this is going. I think what do I want to do next? I think I want to add some more lines. I still haven't heard any other book ideas. If you have an idea for what the book should be, let me know. Stephanie came up with the one idea of Matilda. All right. So, do I need anything else from this? Am I getting anything else out of this guy? I don't think so. I think I can get rid of a little drawing, other than, I like the bookmark comes down. First of all, let's get the center point of this book better. This is definitely off. Center point, be following his tail down right about here, I think. And through the book. All right. Down at the end of the book, a little binding. A lot of times, whenever the book is arched like that, the binding curves upward. The book is flayed open. And then the actual spine of it goes almost the opposite direction. It goes down, right? So then we come out from the book. Some of this work that I did earlier is throwing me off. So I got to try and ignore what's in front of me with some of the stuff I did before. And that's sometimes really tough to do. I'm also trying to position myself. I'm actually now looking at the drawing from over here so that I'm kind of in line with the center of the book. So that way it would look more correct from this angle, to be like a face-on book. That makes sense. I think I arched too high there. To go down. We also got to leave some room for the thick pages of the book. Maybe we have one page arching upward, the rest are kind of laying flat. So trying to make all these little decisions as I go. And I got to try and remember everything because I'm not looking at references for the book right now. But I did do some book binding, so that definitely helped. My sketchbook I made myself, and I recommend that if you end up loving drawing and you love your sketchbooks and you're going to spend that much time in them, then making your own sketchbook can be a lot of fun, very rewarding. That's something I highly recommend doing if you are an artist or want to get into art and like crafts. Sea Lemon on YouTube has just some amazing tutorials. What I did for my binding of my sketchbook is called a French link stitching, I believe. And I just watched one of her videos, followed along, and it was so simple to do. And the thing that was great is when you open it up, it lays completely flat. And so that's something that I really wanted in a sketchbook, and I wanted it out of the paper that I like. Oh my gosh, look how dark my ring finger is. Wow. Okay. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun doing something like that, building something like that you're going to spend all your time in, or a lot of time in at least. I've already spent maybe, I don't know, 150 hours in my sketchbook, and I don't have very many pages filled. So if I'm going to spend a lot of time in it, might as well love it and love everything about it. And the way that you can get a sketchbook that you absolutely love is to make your own. And it's not as daunting as it sounds to make your own book. You need a couple of things, some glue, and when you say glue, people like freak out. I don't want to glue. I don't want to, there's all these extra tutorials out there for people that want to make books that don't want to do any of the gluing and binding and stuff like that. But I think you end up with a lot better product in the end if you do all that. It's really just a lot of fun. But I was super impatient when I did mine. And so like my cover slides around on my book. It doesn't stay in just one spot. And I don't know, it's kind of like my battle scars that I added up here. It's something that I made, I created. I know why it's that way, and I love it because it's that way. I think I like that for the book a lot better. I feel like something's still a little off. I'm not worried about a whole lot to do with perspective, like the book getting significantly larger up front. Um, I want it to read as just, a little bit more flat. So I don't want to do where it looks like there's a lot of foreshortening going on. Lots of pages and the cover. Second page doesn't open as much. And then all the other pages are laying kind of flat. I don't need to draw on every page right now, just the general idea. Okay, all right. That's a pretty good one. The Book of Jonah with the whale, where Jonah gets swallowed by the whale and is in there, has to think about what he's done. That's a pretty cool one. That's a neat idea, Uncle Murky. I like that one too. I like that a lot. All right, stepping back a little bit, I feel like there's something still off with my book. And it might be that the width of the left page, let's check. Let's measure for once. I like never do this. I hate doing this. Right about there. I mean, they're almost identical in width. Maybe it's just the shading I've got going on, because that's not right. And that's something that threw me off on this, was just the shading being off of the where the light's gonna fall. So probably the same kind of thing here. Let's put in a little bit of work on that and see if we can get to look a little bit more realistic. And so one thing that I always like to do that I think gives things a lot of shape whenever you're drawing is I'm not just erasing the area I don't like. I'm erasing in the same form of the shape that I'm erasing. For example, this being a book, I'm following the shape of this page from the center up, where it bubbles up in the center and then goes back into laying flat out on the outside. I'm erasing with that shape and with those contours. And it might not look like a lot when you're doing this little bit at a time, but over time, what happens is that ends up really building up, and you can kind of see that underneath. Like, you can't really, but you can kind of see it underneath the top layer of the drawing. And so that'll end up giving some shape, and you don't even know why it looks more rounded or looks more like the shape that it is, because nothing looks like it's really dictating that. But it's those things that other people won't notice that you know that you did, and they'll be like, I don't know why it looks so cool, or why it looks like that, or there's something about it that, yeah, that looks more realistic, or whatever the case might be. They'll not know why it looks like that, but you will. And it's for those little tiny things, like just following the grain, basically, of each item. All right, accidentally erased over here a little bit. That back in. Okay, and then I got rid of a lot of that, but I want to add some shade back into this book. so that I can create that highlight on the right side, the center part where it starts to dip down into the book, sort of curve over, should be shaded a little bit more. And then when it flattens back out, the light's going to hit it again. So just add a little bit with the blending stump. I'm just going back and forth over and over because it's just adding a tiny bit more each time that I do this. Such a tiny amount, but then ends up looking pretty good. Thank you for joining, Debbie. It was great seeing you. It was nice having you here, and thanks for sharing all the shark stuff you did with us. All right. I think I like that. I need to define the scuba diver a bit more, and his light, because the flashlight's going to come up here and wreck all of this, make it a lot more difficult on me. And then we have to have our fall off. So we're dealing with two different light sources, and this is probably the tricky part because I got to come from up here and from down here. But you know what? I'm pretty happy with this for now. We're coming up on 2 hours of this stream. We've been running for 1 hour and 52. I'll keep it going just till 9 o'clock. I think I'm gonna start winding down on this one for the night. We're gonna come back and revisit this one later this week or this weekend, I think. Because I definitely want to finish this piece up. And I want to do some more art. Because man, once you start diving into it and start getting your hands on something like this, and this is so cool creating like this, that I just want to do it more and more. And I get almost ADD with my drawings. I end up going from one to the next. I have, I think, 3 or 4 paintings right now behind me on my right that like I've started but not finished. And I really want to finish some art up. So I think if I end up finishing this one up, that's going to be nice. And then I'll go on to those. I think the next one that we're going to do after this guy will be the Biltmore. So I've already started drawing this, and I've got this weird idea where I wanted to do oil and then have it go into becoming black and white in the middle. And that's, I think, what we're going to do next is I want to kind of bring the oil paint into the drawing a little bit, make it look like it's going to black and white so that there's a drawing in the middle and then oil paint on the outside. So that's a work that I've got to finish. I've got to finish painting of my wife, started it, and just portraits are hard. Portraits are so tough. I spent so much time on my self-portrait, and I don't regret it, but man, that took some serious time. And right now, like, I've just enjoyed creating this one guy so much that I want to create more. I want to do a lot of things, not just one thing for a very, very long time. All right, so that's the highlight of his skin, but then it's in the shadow. I think the way to do this is to really define the transitional point. Where it goes from that dark shade to his light shade. And then I think shading that won't look like such a big deal. Just getting rid of some of this extra shade down here that doesn't need to exist under his fin. And a little pop of highlight there, just to get that last little bit to the very bottom, a little tip. All right, and I think one other thing I want to do before we wrap up tonight is I lost it again. I lost that makeup sponge. How in the world Like, I'm the only one here. Nobody stole it from me, but I cannot find it. Oh, well. All right. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put the toilet paper into graphite powder again. Just get this a little bit darker all down here. And if I go really dark down here, I think that'll actually create a really nice bit of contrast in the piece. If I go really dark at the bottom, but I don't want to lose the book, like the edge of the book. I guess I could always add a little bit of highlight to the outside cover, but might be neat to lose a little bit of the book, right? It looks like it's in the depths. That means that this innately has to get darker. So leave that little bit of highlight on the right side. Just a little pop right up here. That's gonna mess me all kinds up. That flashlight. I need to end up studying how flashlight beams end up looking in water from scuba divers. I've done it once, but I've used when I was scuba diving, I remember the way that the light fell a little bit. And it does kind of, when you're scuba diving, it's actually a lot harsher of a beam than like your typical flashlight. So it's a lot more focused because it needs to be to sort of cut through the water. So, but then it has like usually that one ring of extra light outside because of the lens. And then I think there's usually like a last little bit of fall off, usually like somewhere much wider. But then I think it kind of ends. It doesn't, and then it sort of dissipates. So I think we're going to go with something like that. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, everybody, today. I had a lot of fun on my first live, and all of you guys being here made it worth it. And it was nice talking to somebody and not just talking to thin air like I'm sure a lot of people experience on their first live. So thank you all for making this so special for me and such a great time. I really enjoyed hanging out with everybody. If you're watching this on the replay, don't forget to let me know and still be part of the conversation. I would look at all the comments on here on Facebook or on YouTube. I look at them, I respond, I read them. So feel free, if you're watching on the replay, to follow along and have, hopefully put in some comments of your own along the way. Because I'd love to know who your favorite artists are, and you've done some of the crazy stuff that Debbie has, catching sharks and stuff. That's pretty cool. I might need to live a little bit more. No, I want to wrap this up because it's like right at that 2-hour mark, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I'm having so much fun drawing. I just want to keep going. I think my brain needs a little bit of a break. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to call it for the night. This is where we're at, and we're going to end up catching back up on the next live, which I might make tomorrow and just go for it, or it might be Saturday. Keep an eye out for that. I'll let you know. And thank you so much for joining me on this. I had a lot of fun with you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great night.